beginning. And he writes, when Mr. Jinnah arrived, he was in a most frigid, haughty, and disdainful frame of mind. For half an hour more, he made monosyllabic replies to my attempts at conversation. And I think this sums up the relationship. It was like a game of tennis where the ball wasn't being returned.
Jinnah was being Jinnah at his worst. He was intransigent, he was intractable. He refused to succumb to what Mountbatten had always deployed very successfully, his charm onslaught. Mountbatten was left astonished.
To Mountbatten, having a drink with his friends would amount to the same thing as being able to do politics. And that is, of course, a very sort of chummy London club scene sort of attitude. And it worked very well with somebody like Nehru. But with Jinnah, that didn't work at all. It's really sad, because he thinks that's how politics is done. It's actually such a tragedy. God.
Once Mountbatten realizes he can't charm Jinnah, he in some ways tries to demonize him, to make Jinnah look like he's being highly unreasonable, highly unfair, and frankly mad, so that it makes it easier to push forward his plans and his ideas, because Jinnah is such an impossible person.
We have this meeting from literally a week later, and he writes, I regard Jinnah as a psychopathic case. In fact, until I'd met him, I would not have thought it possible that a man with such a complete lack of administrative knowledge or sense of responsibility could achieve or hold down so powerful a position. So even within a week, the relationship has got a lot worse.
I've never seen another historical figure being called a madman this frequently. And then when you look at his demands, they're sober, rational demands. None of his demands are crazy. He looks at the European experience and he says that minorities will be exterminated. That is what's happening in Europe. So if I don't get my own country for the Muslim minority, we will not have a Muslim minority to talk about in 100 years' time.
Four weeks later, Mountbatten has devised a plan for Indian independence. Plan Balkan, as it's known, is approved in London. It has not been discussed with any of the Indian leaders.
Plan Balkan was Mountbatten's great plan to fragment and divide India before the British left. Power being transferred to a dozen, perhaps 13, provincial governments. My grandfather, V.P. Menon, was fully aware, firstly, that Plan Balkan would decimate India, and more importantly, in a way, was that neither the Congress Party nor the Muslim League would ever accept it.
May 1947 is a very interesting point because they're all feeling very tired. Dickie's has had dysentery. They all go to rest and recover in Shimla.
Shimla was the summer capital of the British Raj. It's up in the foothills of the Himalayas, in a spectacularly beautiful location. Incredibly dramatic scenery. So it really feels a bit like the Garden of Eden up in these mountainsides.
The events in Simla in May 1947 are of vital importance in the story of the partition because they resulted in the geographical map of the world changing. Lady Mountbatten suggested my grandfather come up to Simla as well. But the Mountbattens had a surprising guest with them, Nehru.
So immediately, of course, that was a sort of fairly intimate little kind of trip.